Thrilling. It's so thrilling to be live.
It is thrilling to
Working
be live.
without a net.
Yeah.
No safety involved.
It's a little scary, too.
Yes. You have to be careful what you say.
And what you do.
And what you don't say.
And what you don't say, yes.
If you don't know, we were just testing our live recording system, which theoretically works fine.
Yes.
But it's another one of those things where bad rehearsal, good show, they used to say in the theater. So, the rehearsal didn't go great, but it looks like it'll probably be fine for the broadcast. The reason we're doing that is, well, one, we want to do a little more live content on Just Enough Trope, because I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Being able to broadcast live from places. Like, often we go to cons or what have you, or interview people, and, you come back home and then you edit something together and you go, this is what happened on that day.
Right.
But if we could skip that and just go right to you're hearing live from where we are.
Right.
Talking to the King of Prussia or whoever it is. Isn't King of Prussia a city in Pennsylvania?
I don't know. It could be.
Oh, how did it get its name? There's this king.
Of Prussia.
And he really, really wanted to have a town named after him.
Yeah.
And
in Pennsylvania.
So far, as far as the collaborative world building game goes, we're all got cold feet here.
Yeah.
It's like when we did the live show and I had everybody on the panel describe what happens in one word, a succession of one words about what happens in con. It's like conjunctions and adverbs are your friend. If you don't know how to go forward, you just go and or then he carefully, it's like carefully what? All the operative words are nouns and verbs, of course. Learn about operative words here through our words on the Just Enough Trope podcast. I'm your host, Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
And we're back. And we're here to talk about turkey. We're here to talk the turkey of all the news that's fit to cast in the world of nerdy entertainment, of which we have some, and we'll be talking about later. I realized last week on our comic book club segment, we talked about Fushigi Yugi.
Yes.
Which is a lot of fun. And we did that because it marked the return of Outlander.
Yes.
Outlander Season 3 is back on Stars. And then we never talked about Outlander.
That's true.
So we'll talk about Outlander's, the premiere a little bit today, and what we think we're going to see in the upcoming season. And then, of course, it's another comic book club segment at the end of this show in honor of Len Wein, who died last week, a week ago today.
Yeah.
We are, or 8 days ago today. We'll be talking about Giant Size X-Men #1, which he wrote and Dave Cockrum penciled.
Yes.
So that is that. How are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm doing well,
Me too.
Cal.
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just tired. I think I've described this before on the show, but I have like an exponential sort of level of competency, and the gun goes off when I wake up. And it's not that I'm not a morning person. I'm worthless in the morning, and I'm not real great in the afternoon. And as soon as the sun starts to go down, maybe I'm like lunar powered, but that's when things start to really ramp up for me. And then by the time it's time to go to bed, like I'm a genius. And then the later I stay up, it doesn't matter how tired I am. Like that's when I'm having like amazing ideas, and I'm having all these like ambitions to get this, that, and the other done. And I can't fall asleep. Now I'm trying to make myself go to sleep. And it's like foolish mortal shell. This mind has many more wonders to unleash on the world. So we're doing this early. I'm on the other end of the curve here.
Yeah.
What do you like in the morning?
I'm not a morning person at all. No. I'm worthless in the morning.
How are you at night?
I'm better at night.
Okay, all right. Well, we're kindred spirits. That's why we should only tape at night.
I guess so.
I would say. Let's give you some updates, listener, on what's coming up here for us. If you haven't checked out Craft to Services yet, our new show, that should sound familiar. It started as a segment on this podcast where we talk about movies that are below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, but over 100 in the hearts of the fans. I don't know if that's true or not. But it's our bad movie show. And it's, some bad movie shows relish the irony of watching a piece of crap. Some shows unapologetically love and appreciate bad films. This is about in the middle.
Sure.
It's about in the middle. I saw a need in the marketplace for a show that could enjoy the things that, were kind of sweetly inept, but still go after the things that are just cynically bad.
Sure.
And so we've kind of got both of those things covered. We've got a couple good shows in the can at craftdisservices.com. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all the good places where you want to check it out. We just talked about Congo. Yes. The 1995 movie Congo with special guest Melissa F. Olson, friend of the show and former guest on this show. And she's got a lot to say.
She sure
about
does.
Congo. She says a lot.
She sure does.
And it's one of those examples of she picked the movie.
Yeah.
But she really didn't like it. And I'm like,
especially the monkeys.
Part of the premise is you're supposed to kind of like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I ended up kind of throwing myself on the tracks to sort of defend what'd she call it, like a perfect storm of nonsense or something like that. But it's fun. Not a good movie, but fun.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of movies that we want to talk about. So we'll have another one this week. I won't spoil the surprise and tell you what it is. But yeah, definitely check that out. Also, if you're a Star Trek fan, I hope you're listening to Enterprising Individuals, our Star Trek show. We're kind of wrapping up our second season. It's just like on TV.
Yeah.
I call them seasons. So that means that original content that is original looks at individual episodes of Star Trek series with guests like Star Trek authors, Star Trek actors, and Star Trek superfans like you is going to take a break. It's going on hiatus until the beginning of the year. But in the meantime, of course, Star Trek Discovery is coming out. It's coming out this next Sunday, the 24th. And so we will be switching the format of the show to a live recap in the style of if there were some dead people and they were talking, it would be like that. But I don't want to get sued or taken over by Chris Hardwick, which is going to happen anyway. When Chris Hardwick comes in and just buys you out, does he buy you out like for real, or does he buy you out like Bill Gates bought out Mr. X, Homer's porn company?
Oh my gosh!
He goes, "Okay, boys, buy him out," and some burly guys just break everything. And Homer's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You don't think I got this rich by writing checks, do you?" I wonder how that happens. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing live recap shows that will air immediately after Discovery on Sunday nights. So that'll generally be 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Adjust accordingly for wherever you are. And once again, we'll be having guests like Star Trek authors, Star Trek screenwriters, hopefully some Star Trek actors and other personalities. We'll talk about the show. Not real long, maybe 25, 30 minutes. Just give you our impressions of what the episode that we just saw was like and what we expect to see in the future. And to find that, you could tune in to our social media. Before we go live every night, there will be a link posted to Facebook, to Twitter. Also, you can follow us on our Spreaker page. That's our show's homepage. If you go to Spreaker and search for Enterprising Individuals, you'll find it there, and it just broadcasts live right there.
There you go.
Pick it up. If you can't listen to it live, that's fine. It stays online for about 24 hours, and after that, old shows will be available on our Patreon page, and that's patreon.com/EISTpod. That is our Enterprising Individuals Patreon page.
All right. Awesome.
We have one for every show.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to combine them. They say attack your audience specifically. The more general it is, people don't know what they're really giving to or whatever. So it all goes to help the Just Enough Trope Network, but they're just sort of themed. So if you're like, I love those movie shows, want to see more of those, you can just do it on Craft Services. If you love the Star Trek stuff and want to hear more about that, you can go to Enterprising Individuals, EIST Pod, on Patreon, and you can go to Just Enough Trope at Patreon as well to support this sort of frippery, floofery, whatever you want to call it. All right, you're good, I'm good.
Yeah.
Let's do some news. So, it's been a long time since we've talked about Jennifer Lawrence.
It has been a long time.
I think the last time we talked about her, she was falling down some stairs or something.
Or she was taking a nap.
When was she taking a nap?
What, right? When they were putting on her makeup for Mystique.
Yes, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was a hypothetical situation that I don't think that actually happened, but yeah.
Right.
Right. So we were talking about her hypothetically last time we talked about her.
Yeah.
Well, she's back and she's getting it done. She's got a new movie in theaters called, how do you say it? Mother? It's in lowercase. It's really pretentious. It's in lowercase, and then it's got an exclamation point. I know that movies that end, the famous legend is that movies ending in question marks don't do well.
Okay. It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Right, but if you look at the title card of Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
there's no question mark?
Yes. It is just 4 words. It is not a question.
Okay.
Because what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
I don't know. I didn't look up the box office on that one. But anyway, yeah, so she's in this movie with Darren Aronofsky. It is supposedly really weird, and it's kind of one of those you're going to love it or hate it type things. And it has currently reached the coveted cinema score of F.
Wow.
Cinema score is like the Rotten Tomatoes for the audience, even though I know there's an audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's basically, based on exit polls from people seeing a movie. What'd you think? And as you'd imagine, a lot of movies tend to skew high. People come out of a movie, they're not trying to be as critical as a critic is. And so they go, yeah, it's pretty good. Or they might go,
it's all right. Yeah.
I can't talk to you. I got to go get another ticket and go right back in. That'd be an A. Yeah, it has clinched an F.
That's pretty bad.
Yes. Well, the movie is not great.
I guess so.
I think that's part of the problem is that people don't really know what to do with it. Yeah, like what it really is. And nobody seems to be able to describe it. Like, I think it's been marketed wrong as well in that they've kind of marketed as this sort of Rosemary's Baby for the 21st century. Like it's a dark thriller.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like.
That's what it seems like, yeah. And the synopsis or whatever you call it is a couple's relationship is tested when uninvited guests arrive at their home, disrupting their tranquil existence. That's all you get.
That doesn't tell me much at all.
No. And so the studio's trying to steer into it. They're like saying like, oh, you'll never forget the mother. You got to see this movie. The movie, the audiences are like, what? Go and see it now. We let Darren Aronofsky go real crazy on this one. And this is what you get.
Right.
What do you think about Aronofsky?
I'm not super familiar with his work. What else has he done?
Yeah, you are.
I don't remember.
He has done in no order of importance or significance to his career, but he did. I think Requiem for a Dream was kind of his big breakout.
Okay.
Before that, he did a little indie movie called Pi.
Okay.
He did The Wrestler. Remember The Wrestler?
I don't remember The Wrestler.
Mickey Rourke.
Oh.
He did a movie called The Fountain. That's the one where Hugh Jackman's in love with a tree or something. He did. Stick with me. And then he did a little more corporate work. He did like Black Swan in 2010.
Okay.
He did Noah in 2014.
I don't remember that
He
one.
for a time was attached to the Wolverine.
Really?
Yes, the movie that ended up going to James Mangold.
Well, I don't think he would have been a great director for that. Just his other like.
No, that movie would be called Bub. Just be Bub and an exclamation point. Yeah. So okay.
So he
not a
does
fan.
like stylistic type films.
He does. He's very inventive, and he does as much as he can get away with.
Right.
Yeah.
That are kind of like psychological and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, this is certainly that. Yeah, whereas I think Black Swan is pretty straightforward. It's one of the reasons I didn't really like it. It's like, we get it. She's under pressure. She goes crazy, disassociates, and we wonder if she's really growing feathers or Mila Kunis is really turning into her or what. And, and then she dies. It's like, yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody loved that movie. It's shot really well. It's one thing I like about Aronofsky is that he's a guy that tries all this crazy stuff. It doesn't always happen, but he does shoot inventively and like well. Like his stuff always looks really good.
Right.
I'm not sure if Mother fits into that. I've seen some clips that look real dark and weird, and so I don't know. I think people are just saying in general that it's a brutal slog. Like it's tough. Like it's like one of those films where the character just goes through a whole bunch of stuff, and that's it. Like that's the point. Like, why is this happening? Yeah.
Go through a whole bunch of stuff.
Just torturing this character.
Well, that's not really fun to watch.
No, and Requiem for a Dream was kind of like that. And at the end, the sort of moral was, drugs are bad. Jimmy, eat something. And again, that's not a
Right.
very complicated moral, but I guess it's something solid. But I've just heard some reviewers say, why? Why is all this stuff happening? She's like getting thrown around and gang raped and all this other stuff. And like, what? Why? To what end?
Well, that's really
Should be called brother, not mother.
Concerning.
She'll get nommed for an Oscar. No problem. What you think?
Well, she's gotten nommed for an Oscar multiple times.
Nom.
Yeah.
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 She's got more noms than a Domo-kun.
Yeah.
Did I do that right? I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, that's good news, I guess. Another woman headlining a weird film. That's good. Another woman that wants to headline a lot of films is Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
Who has said in a tweet, we speculated, everybody pretty much just guessed that her role in Days of Future, roll it back. Her role in Dark Phoenix,
Yes.
coming out in 2019, will be Lilandra. She has said specifically, it's not Lilandra. I'm not playing Lilandra.
Okay. Well, then who is she playing? We have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay.
What if it was Moria McTaggart? That'd be real disappointing. Also, Rose Byrne would be out of a job.
Yeah. That would not be great.
Yeah, it's bad news. Well, I don't know if you remember, but Jessica Chastain has been attached to Painkiller Jane for a while.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Through her production company. And it looks like Christine Boylan will adapt Painkiller Jane into a script for Jessica Chastain to star in.
Okay. Kind of surprised that this hasn't happened already, but all right.
Yeah. I think, well, it's the iron is hot. Superhero wise, that's a hot iron.
Yeah.
The hot iron man. That's how that works. But, also the wheels can turn slow.
Yes, they can.
And it might be a question of, because Painkiller Jane was never super popular. And so it might be a question of, well, do we want to do this? Or are you sure we can't make her an X-Man or something like that? Trying to convince studio executives that you have a particular vision for the thing. You're hooking up with Joe Quesada and Palmiotti and like seeing if they've got any input.
That's true.
Yeah. So it takes time.
Yeah.
Unless you're making an X-Men movie, you just pick a decade and then you just ruin the comic book story that you want to set in it. That's how Simon Kinberg makes X-Men movies. So hopefully his new one will be better than that. What else? In the realm of comic book movies, it looks like Matthew Vaughn is in talks to direct Man of Steel 2.
Didn't we already have like a Man of Steel 2?
Wow.
Well, it was Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, Man of Steel 1.5.
Okay. All right. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this besides the fact that I don't really like this Superman.
Yeah, well, he doesn't either. And I'm not sure 2 films in if you've got a chance to course correct, but he has said about the talks and his take on the character that it would be more heroic and feel good.
Well, I think that that's more what Superman should be like. I don't want my Superman dark and brooding. That's Batman.
Also, boobies and poop jokes.
Oh, great.
And lots of swear words because he's the kick-ass guy. And the Huntsman. Not Huntsman. What is he? Kingsman. Huntsman is something else.
Yeah.
How'd you like to see that? Huntsman 3, directed by Matthew Vaughn, and he's just gonna really
Just a lot of swearing.
Yeah. There's a new Red Riding Hood is like a little girl that like kills the wolf, but then she starts to kill all wolves everywhere. She's just like impaling them and blowing their brains out.
This thing is writing itself.
Foul mouth. Yeah. That's her basket. It's like, what's in the basket? Goodies. Kind of like that. Yeah. So that is, I guess, good news. I mean, he's somebody who I like a lot of his stuff, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Would you call his X-Men First Class heroic and feel good?
It's heroic. I don't know that it's feel good.
There's some fun parts in it.
There's some fun parts in it, for sure.
Yeah. Where Magneto dresses up like a girl. But then he also like murders 3 guys with like a flying knife. So
yeah.
maybe not all that great.
It has its moments.
It certainly does. Here's some bad news from the world of superhero movies. Looks like Stephanie Folsom, who was a writer on Thor Ragnarok, is being denied a co-writing credit.
Why?
Well, because the Writers Guild of America has rules that only 2 writers can be credited for a film. And that also includes, if you're a writing pair, then you can be credited together. So that counts as 1. So like if Lord and Miller write on something, they're 1.
They're 1.
Yeah. And so because Kyle and Yost, Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost, are both credited as writers on it, they've written a lot of comic book stuff. They write a lot of the comic book shows like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Avengers, and things like that.
Sure.
They do work together often, but they're not considered a team for some reason.
Okay.
And so therefore they're full up. There's no room.
Well, that doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right.
If I was her, I'd be really pissed off.
Yes. And Marvel wanted to give her a story by credit, but the Writers Guild said, no go.
Oh, they wouldn't even let them do that.
No. Bad news.
That is bad news.
Now, I'm going to have to go back and check the poster or whatever, but weren't there 6 people credited on writing Spider-Man?
Yes.
In between the screenplay and the story?
Yes.
So,
what's the problem?
Is it because it's a co-production? There's 2 studios worth of writers or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know
good
either.
Question.
Well, anyway, Folsom was not happy, clearly, and went to Twitter to basically go like, what the heck?
Well,
so
yeah.
maybe there'll be a change. We don't know. Maybe she'll pull a Lucas and just quit the guild. And she'll go off and write something and make billions of dollars. And spend the rest of her life trying to live up to that one thing that she did. Heroic. Feel good. I wasn't done talking about Jennifer Lawrence. Did you see that trailer for Red Sparrow?
I did see that trailer.
Listeners, there's a trailer for a movie called Red Sparrow out right now. And wow. Right now, Marvel has to be asking itself, when can we sue?
Yeah, no kidding.
Kevin Feige is talking to Marvel lawyers right now. Has to be.
Has to be.
What happens in the Red Sparrow trailer?
Basically, she is an ex-ballerina who turns into a spy, who seduces people. She's basically Black Widow.
And they didn't say, oh, she's the Viper or something. They're like, okay, what's the pattern? Color and then an animal? Okay, what do you guys got?
Yeah, exactly.
Red Sparrow.
Yep.
They're not even trying to hide it.
They're not.
She's a former Russian ballerina who becomes a KGB assassin.
Yep.
And gets mixed up with Puffy Sam Worthington in some other thing or another.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Marvel, you really... you can do really good and then just have like one thing that's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
It's like if you have, wow, this is a really funny movie. I love it. I hope there isn't like a scene where Dom DeLuise like acts like gay and makes fun of gay people. Oh, Blazing Saddles. We almost made it. This is almost perfect. Now we have to get to this scene and I have to go kind of like, for like the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, and that's no fun.
Dom DeLuise is... Well, he was always like, I mean, I know he has like children, but people were like,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care.
That doesn't make it better.
No. Well, at least here's why it might make it a little better, because if the thing that you are making fun of, and that movie makes fun of everybody.
Yes,
if the people being made fun of are in on the joke and they're making the jokes, then it's a little okay, right?
I guess so.
I'm trying to get Mel Brooks off the hook here. Anyway, but that's a whole other question of like punching up and punching down and what's okay and what's not. And I think you should be able to make a joke about anything, but there are definitely jokes that are, not funny and aren't going to make any friends.
Right.
On another show, perhaps we'll return to an exegesis about the cultural insensitivity of Blazing Saddles. What about the Irish? Oh, the Irish too. Why not? Prairie shit. The Irish too. Some other little news blips. The guy that directed Cowboy Bebop, Shinichiro Watanabe, will be directing a short in the style of Cowboy Bebop for the for the Blade Runner movie. It'll be an animated prequel.
Oh, nice.
It'll be short itself. It's set in 2022, and it's going to be like an Animatrix, type auxiliary sort of work to go with the main thing.
Okay. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah.
You don't seem very excited about it.
I'm kind of burned out on extra matter, Just put it in the thing. Hey, Watanabe, make some more anime. Like,
right.
Space Dandy, fine. But like, make a movie or something like that. Like, why are you doing this stuff?
Does it seem like small fries?
Yeah, well, I'm looking back at the Animatrix. Like, a lot of those creators that worked on the Animatrix weren't really doing anything then, and then they did the Animatrix, and then they did like Batman Gotham Knights or whatever, and it's like, why aren't you guys like making stuff? Like, what, Miyazaki quit, and then he came back because he's like, no, anime needs me, and he came back. And what are you guys doing? Like, maybe they're just, once you've made it, like, you've got a studio, and I guess you're producing, and you can live off that, your fat cat on your stacks of yen, and
yeah,
the fire goes out. Like, how many amazing, unforgettable things that can you do from here on out?
I guess so.
You've already done, how many spikes, how many Mugens, do you have in you?
Right.
But give it a try.
I agree.
Try it out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
If there was a rebooted Cowboy Bebop, I'm going to set very specific terms here.
Okay.
Because Watanabe has said, pretty much definitively that it's over. It's over.
Sure.
Story's over. I don't plan to tell any more. You might see some ambiguities in the way it ends, but I think it's pretty clear how it ends. So there's not going to be any more Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
But let's say that he either greenlit, gave the thumbs up to, or was pushed out and wasn't involved in it. His studio did like a, Neon Genesis Evangelion, You Cannot Pass or whatever, like reboot.
Sure.
Maybe using some of the same stories, definitely using the same characters, but sort of doing that whole, that whole anime reboot type thing they do.
Yeah.
Would you watch it?
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
For sure. I like Cowboy Bebop.
I do too, but I like Voltron. I'm not really watching the new one, though. I like the old one.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd give it a shot.
You're so forgiving. Oh, did you like Sailor Moon Silver Crystal person?
I actually haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay. So it's totally hypothetical for you.
I guess it is. You caught me.
Okay.
Caught me red-handed.
Well, you watch it and you let me know if it's any good.
Okay.
Speaking of animes and cartoons that are getting redone, Robotech. Remember they were talking about doing a Robotech film?
Yeah.
Well, it is being produced and directed by Andy and Barbara Muschietti, who did the It film.
Okay.
That was very successful and continues to be successful. And they've got a new writer, Jason Fuchs, who wrote Pan.
Like Pan's Labyrinth?
No, Pan, like the one that had Smells Like Teen Spirit in it. The Baz Luhrmann Pan.
Okay.
With Hugh Jackman. And he also worked on the story for Wonder Woman. He's been hired by Sony for this reboot.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I mean,
feelings, huh?
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't have any strong feelings about it.
I can tell.
So,
I can tell.
Yeah.
At this point, like, who would you, okay, so you don't like Cal, who would you get? That's a question that you could have asked me. I'd say me and my friend Andy, because we ate and lived and breathed Robotech like our entire lives.
Okay.
Up into our adult lives, read all the books, and would have some great ideas about what you could keep and what you could throw as far as what needs to be in a movie.
Okay.
Although I guess I trust the guys who took a TV adaptation of a 1,300-page novel and then turned it into a movie that has made $300 million already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they know what they're doing. Maybe they know what works and what doesn't.
Maybe.
Do you think when they adapted it, did they go, we're going to go to the book? Or did they like, oh, look at the TV show too? I mean, we don't have Harry Anderson. I don't know if this is going to work.
Right. I don't know. Do you see the joke with that's been going around, or instead of it's IT, and there's the what's his name from the IT crowd in the like Storm Great.
Okay. I see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Losers Club the It Crowd is their other name, right? Good stuff.
Yeah.
Did we report on news last week?
I think we did.
I feel like we missed a lot of stuff. Did we talk about the fact that so we know that Ed Skrein dropped out of the Hellboy reboot?
Yes.
Because he didn't want to be whitewashing,
right?
An Asian character. Daniel Day Kim has stepped in to replace him.
I heard that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Jin from Lost.
Yes,
and Guy on Hawaii Five-0, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a real troll, this is where you go. Oh, he's Korean and the character's Japanese.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is a
One
step
of these
in the right direction.
Kids is a little closer to the other, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
The lack of representation of Asians is the problem.
Yes.
Now we can get to the very specific crowd, the Japanese/Korean crowd of that, and go. And if they want to get mad about it, fine. But you fat white guy with a neck beard at home that's going to try to get mad about this, nah, that's not.
Right.
Nobody's going to listen to that.
Well, there's not a whole lot of Asian actors out there, and then there's a lack of roles for them. So
Well, I would argue that there are plenty of Asian actors out there, but they are not getting, to part two of your statement, the roles that could be given to anybody.
Yeah,
it's like you
right.
have to write an Asian person in specifically.
You're right.
And then, now let's find an Asian person. If we can find one, maybe we'll just, it doesn't matter. Because Asian people could be anybody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like any, I'm trying to get real broad here, but like any Jennifer Aniston movie where she's like a wacky comedy or something, that could be Lucy Liu.
Sure.
Or any other Asian actress that I can't think of right now, even though there are plenty out there.
Yeah.
That could be Chloe Bennett.
Sure.
A.K.A. Chloe Wong. So who knows?
Right.
Yeah. One or two more stories here before we take off. Of course, the big story is that J.J. Abrams has been tapped to direct episode 9.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yes.
How do you feel about that, Cal?
Fine.
Yeah?
I mean, look, I can't say that I liked The Force Awakens. I did. The sentence isn't over. I can't say that I like The Force Awakens and say that he'll screw it up. I think he'll do fine.
Yeah.
I was getting a little excited about the idea of seeing these hot young Turk filmmakers, put their spin on stuff. But now it's proving that a lot of these hot young Turk filmmakers don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So just get rid of them. It's fine.
Right.
I heard a lot of people repeating my theory about like Spielberg being involved, which would have been neat, but
it would have been neat.
He didn't have time for that. He's just going to be shooting Ready Player 2.
I know. It would have been neat. It would have been kind of like full circle with him and Lucas.
Yeah,
and that sort
absolutely.
Of thing.
Yeah.
So.
They've got a director who's directing Jurassic World, the follow-up to Jurassic Park, and he gets fired and gets replaced by the director for Jurassic Park. Like that would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
I think JJ will do fine. He'll do fine.
Yeah.
He's a competent action
director.
And they've definitely, got him to tone the lens flares down. So
yes.
It'll be fine.
Okay.
I'm just worried that, and he's been part of this sort of story group this whole time, but I hope that him directing doesn't, his story ideas and his story influence doesn't then switch to be the main sort of thing in the film.
Right.
Because I know there's a lot of scrambling they have to do anyway because Leia can't be the focus of it like they planned, which is really too bad.
Right.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Can't believe I'm going to say this, but just for the character and just for fans of the character, and because Carrie Fisher wouldn't mind, I might be okay with them CGIing like a Force ghost. I don't want her walking around the whole movie like Orville Redenbacher, Admiral, what's his name?
Right.
But like, she already looks kind of bad because she's like transparent and blue, you know what I mean? Maybe you could get away with having her look kind of fake. And then, so she dies, but she still plays a big role in it. Because at this point, they're just going to go, gonna miss her. And then we never talk about her again. And like, so what do we make the third movie about? A mystery box. Guys, listen, I have an idea. We've got a box. There's a question mark on it. That's the kind of thing I'm afraid of with Abrams coming back.
I hope it's not a mystery box because that would be, I don't know.
All of his stuff.
I just feel like that would be really bad.
Yeah, it's really stupid. What else? You know what? This is great. Angela Robinson is going to adapt Terry Moore's Strangers in Paradise.
Okay.
You remember that?
No, I don't really remember that.
Strangers in Paradise?
Yeah.
We read it.
We read it?
Kachu, and she's in love with Francine, her best friend, and like one of them's kind of straight-laced, the other one's like a wild child. And then they get caught in a love triangle, and then Kachu used to be like a prostitute or something like that. And then she's like...
okay.
She stole like money from them, and so it's...
Okay.
Wow, big impression. We met Terry Moore in Seattle.
I know we did.
Well, that's a vote for this movie, I guess, from you. I wonder if I can find another story to end this on. How about this instead? Fox is looking at the Maze Runner director Wes Ball for their Mouse Guard adaptation.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Mouse Guard?
I do remember Mouse Guard. We played Mouse Guard game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
D&D.
Well, enough about us.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll be a good movie?
It has potential to be a good movie. I mean, is it going to be animated, I'm assuming?
Well, it is going to be a mixture of live action and CGI. Which, in my mind, it'll just be CGI, right?
Probably.
They'll get into some tests in the development, and they'll go, what are we doing? Like some of the cats are real, but the mice are animated.
Yeah.
Like, screw it. Let's just do the whole thing is just animated. Big deal.
It needs to be like consistent.
I don't think it needs to be at all. Well, yeah, you're right. It does need to be consistent. Like they can, as we've said before, babe the crap out of this thing, I think.
Yeah.
But then you have to find a way to like get mice to kind of do what you want them to do, but then you can like CGI a sword on their back or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of troublesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe lab rats you could get to do what you want. But
I do not agree with that, audience. Okay. I'm not on her side there.
All right.
She wants to make a movie through animal testing.
No, I do not.
I'll get the shampoo. You hold their eyes open.
Stop it.
What a performance. So anyway, and then they'll get, of course, just shameless celebrity voices to do it. You know, Ryan Gosling will be the one-eyed mouse or whatever.
Right.
Dumb. Although I do think that a movie is the best place to tell that story, because one of the reasons I stopped reading the comic is to just get to it. Like the story starts meandering all around. It's like I want to get to the conflict here, so they'll boil all that down, and it should be a nice little story.
There we go.
About some mice.
Yeah.
Who fight cats.
Yep.
In the old timey days. Do they have like dogs? Like, you know how like Goofy is a dog, but he's got Pluto? Do the mice like take care of shrews or voles or something like that?
Oh my gosh.
Or like, do bugs talk as well?
That's a good question.
Do they just like, sorry, bug? No, please, come on. Nah, I gotta feed my family. Oh, you stabbed me. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
You're ripping my wings off. Boy, I hate it when they talk. Just trying to eat here.
Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky.
So let's talk about The Outlander, or should I just say Outlander?
Okay.
It's back on Stars. This is the 3rd season, and we have talked about this show a lot before. I've missed talking about it.
Yeah.
And we're back to talk about it now. What's going on?
Well,
I've never seen Outlander. Should I just tune in? Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll pick it up.
Jamie has just been in this huge battle. He's survived, but barely.
Yeah, but who's Jamie? We just did a bit about how people wouldn't understand, so I'm saying that we need to kind of tell everybody what the show's about.
Okay, well, Claire goes back in time.
Who's Claire?
Claire... Oh my gosh.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Claire is a World War II nurse. She's a British nurse in World War II. She's married to a guy who was an officer in World War II as well.
Yeah.
So it's set post-war, like 1946 or 7. They're They were married before the war, right?
Yes.
But they never got to spend any time together because he immediately had to go to the front, and then she had to go do her nurse duties on the front as well. So they're back together, and they're newlyweds even though they've been married 6 years. It's weird. And they're uncomfortable. They go to the Scottish Highlands where he's Frank is her husband. Where he's supposedly got family, or like there's some kind of connection there. So they're digging into his roots. He's an amateur historian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Claire finds these standing stones, like these ancient sort of things, and she messes around and goes through time. She travels back in time.
Yeah.
Just like Fushigi Yugi, only it's not a book. And she's immediately grabbed by a redcoat, a British officer of the period of the late 1600s.
Yep.
And it looks just like Jack, or Frank, because I keep ruining it.
Yeah.
And it turns out that this guy is Jack Randall, his ancestor. He's called Blackjack because he's a real bad guy. And then she's saved from Blackjack by Jamie Fraser, who is this, hunk of burning dude.
Yeah.
Who is like a young lord and like the heir to Broctour, like this, his own clan, basically, like the clan McGregor or whatever.
Yes.
And so she gets into all this thing. And the first season of the show is basically like, I gotta like get home somehow. I gotta pretend that like, oh no, I'm just an English woman who's got over here. And yes, I don't know what phones are. Like,
right.
And be normal. Then that kind of falls apart. Then she falls in love, of course, with Jamie, and gets a marriage of convenience to him, to sort of protect her, but falls in love with him because he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And her husband hasn't been born yet. As far as she knows, she'll never see him again.
Right.
She does, which creates the conflict of the show. So then the next part of the show becomes them trying to stop the Jacobite rebellion, or at least the Battle of Culloden Fields, where the Jacobites are pretty much all wiped out by the royalist forces.
Yep.
And they do that in France, and that's fun. That'll forever be known as Outlander's Hatch season, I think.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I liked it. Like I like the Hatch season. And it looked, they got to go to the battle. Everything's bad news, but Claire ends up going back to the future, like Marty McFly.
Yeah.
And has to explain where she's been, because apparently it's just the clocks. It's like San Dimas Time. You should return to the point that you left. Like the clock's still running.
Yes.
So she's been missing for a year or whatever it is. So she's back, and she can't explain to Frank where she's been, and she's also pregnant, and it's not Frank's.
No.
And that's kind of where we left off at the end of the second season, that it flashed forward again into the 60s, where Frank has died of old age, and Claire is middle-aged, and she has a daughter who's a college-age daughter.
Yeah.
And they're figuring out like this stuff. And she just assumes that Jamie's died, and she goes to the battlefield, in the 60s, where there's a monument and stuff like that, and she just figures he's dead. Yeah. Well, of course he's not dead.
No, of course not.
Keep those buns on that show for sure. Not getting rid of those buns. Hot cross Scottish buns. So we pick up and we find out that, yes, this battle has gone off as planned. Jamie was there. He fought, to the last man with the rest of the Jacobites. And just like they were in history, they were wiped out. And there's a fun little thing where there's been this horrible animosity between him and Blackjack just over a lot of the things that have happened between them.
Yep.
And it's like the, Luke faces Vader moment. And they kind of did it in about 2 minutes. And they just kind of blew through it. Kind of like, this is a new season. This would have been a really big deal like last year, but that's not what the show is anymore. So he and Jamie fight. And, Jamie's a badass. Like, Jamie takes him out, but gets gravely wounded himself. And so he spends the rest of the episode convalescing. And as we were watching it, I realized half of this guy's screen time has just been him getting better from like horrible wounds that he gets.
Yeah.
Every other episode, he's getting his head torn off, and they have to sew it back on. And then he just kind of limps around. And he's like, Sassenach, oh, thanks for taking care of me. I want to see my buns. So we're back to that again. And the show's doing a lot of bookkeeping because Jamie survives. Murphy or whatever his name is, the one guy with the one eye, survives. A couple people survive that are part of his like squad, and they get discovered by some British soldiers. And the soldiers are like, "All right, well, we're gonna shoot all you guys." Yeah, that's what's going on. The king has said that you have to shoot all survivors, and the survivors are like, I mean, I always love how this show takes pains to show you just how different things were. Because we'd expect to be like, no, And they start some fight and they burn the barn down and they run away. But they're all just like, yeah, all right, well, that's what happens. You lose a battle, you get caught, you get shot. And so they take all these characters, like the guy with the one eye and the two kids that, last year they were like, okay, you guys just be careful in this fight. One eye gets shot, those kids get shot. They're just blowing away all these minor characters. Like,
yes.
We're leaving. Wrap up all the loose ends. This story's over.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they're right about to shoot Jamie. And he, the officer in charge, realizes that he's Red Jamie, who's this kind of Jamie's alter ego, on the posters, on the wanted posters.
Sure.
He's known as Red Jamie. And Red Jamie, back in fifth or sixth episode of the last season, saved this little kid who thought that he was going to get the drop on Red Jamie. And Jamie's like, all right, get out of here, kid. And sends him off. And it turns out that kid was this guy's brother.
Yeah.
A lot of brothers in this show.
Yep.
And because of that, this guy doesn't feel like, I can't just shoot this guy because, like, my brother promised that he would kill him.
Yeah.
So, this is real. How do we get Jamie out of this one?
Right.
we already had the guy's ride in when he was about to be hung. Like, we can only play this card so many times.
Right.
So this time the card is played where, well, I don't want to rob my brother of his honor by killing you. So we're going to let you go, and I'll justify it by saying you're so badly wounded, you'll probably just die on the way to wherever you're going anyway.
Right.
So they throw him in a cart, and they take him back to
Lollybrook,
Crackertown.
Yeah.
Where his sister lives with her brother and his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So he's back.
Yep. He's back where he belongs.
Yeah.
At home.
Right. But now he's lost his kingdom or his fiefdom or whatever. He's lost everything.
Yeah.
It's got those buns, though.
Yeah.
Have buns, will travel.
Yes.
And back in the future, it's not so much the future. Now we roll it back to about 1948.
Yeah.
After Claire has returned, she and Frank have moved to Boston.
Yes.
I believe he's at Harvard, right?
I think so.
Well, he's teaching history at a college in Boston, and she's finding it hard to settle into a sort of the American housewife life.
Yeah.
And hard to not be Claire around other very stodgy, backward-thinking men who don't want women to talk about politics and things like that.
Right.
But she's doing okay, and it's clear that she's not completely comfortable with Frank still, because this, even though she thinks the triangle is over, she's still got it going, got it bad for them
Jamie.
buns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she sort of tangles with Frank, who. Frank's character has been the real victim in all this storytelling because they always write him a million different ways. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do.
At first, he's like, "Oh, I love my wife, but I don't really know how important she is, or I maybe don't appreciate her enough." Then she disappears, and he's like, "I'm going to do anything I can. I'm going to get him back." Maybe there's a little bit of blackjack in him.
Maybe.
And then they just drop that, and she comes back, and then he's like, I'm mad at her, like, you whore, like, why you run off and now you're pregnant, and like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And now he's like, all I care about is you. You're the most important thing. If you want to go, you go. That's fine.
Yeah.
What is it?
I know.
And at the end, Claire's daughter's born, whose name I can't remember, and I'm not going to look up.
Yeah. And they don't say it in the episode, so.
Yeah, but we learned it in the last episode of last season.
That's true.
When she's running around the college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Whew.
So.
Outlander.
Yeah.
Now you know it all.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good way to come back and reintroduce what was going on with the characters.
I guess.
But
there was not a recap at all, really.
No,
I thought
there
there'd be
wasn't.
a real long previously on Outlander, and it was just, hey, remember that kid? They showed one shot of the kid, just so later on when the guy goes, kid was my brother, you'd remember. But there wasn't any.
Right.
Giles or whatever her name is, that they didn't show anything about her, or it's like, ooh, what are these stones? Like how she originally got back. Like,
that's true.
It's up to you. There's an app. Starz has an app if you want to watch the old episodes. Like, we're just starting this thing.
Well, and like Marta, we don't know what happened to Marta.
Yeah, that's true.
Like somebody said, I lost track of him in the battle. So
they never kill Marta.
He might be back alive somewhere.
Yeah, he's somewhere.
So I hope he's alive somewhere.
So do you think that Jamie and Marta are going to come like to the future?
That'd be cool.
Or do you think that she'll go back to the past?
I think she'll go back to the past.
I do. Well, clearly she will. This whole show is about time travel, but she seemed to imply in the 60s scenes from last season that she didn't know. She had given Jamie up for dead, basically.
Right.
And then based on what happened and like the stuff with Giles or whatever, she was like, oh, maybe he's out there still or whatever.
Yeah.
And if time seems to move in parallel, then she could find him and they'd both be, in their mid 40s or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever she was. Well, it's kind of pushing it, probably in their 50s or whatever. So they could have like a fall romance type thing.
I think she's going to go back in time with her daughter.
As a baby?
No, not as a baby.
Oh, okay.
I think after Frank is dead, they will go back in time.
Yeah. Well, that's how I thought this season would open.
I kind of thought it would too.
But then they just flip right back.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just getting us ready.
I mean, there was a lot we didn't see.
Yeah.
So I understand why they went back to when Claire was pregnant. And Jamie had just lost her.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that story. I mean, I guess if we wanted to know more, we could just go buy the books.
Yeah, that's true.
But they are big books, and who's got time for that?
They are big books.
Yeah, and do you remember what the thing was with the dragonfly?
I don't, unfortunately.
I can't remember what that is at all.
I don't know if Claire gave it to him.
I know that the name of the second book is Dragonfly and Amber, and it's a metaphor for being trapped in time or something like that. But yeah, I think it was a present from Claire or something. Anyway, he drops
something like that. Yeah.
He drops. Does she find it in the? We're bad. We're bad fans.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of this.
I know.
All right. Anyway, so if there's clues there, we didn't get them. What's the end game? What do you think really happens at the very end
of their story? Or
season, because it's been renewed for 2 seasons. So let's say they go for 6, season 6.
They're reunited and they're trying to get along.
They're trying to get along.
So like it's hard for Frank to share his wife. It's got to be hard for Jamie too.
Right.
So he's got to work out. Okay, she was with Frank for a while, and now she's back with me.
I don't know. He seemed to be pretty cool about that.
You think so?
Yeah, like Frank is, I think, more deeply characterized, if inconsistently, and Jamie's basically just magical, pixie boyfriend, because he's just kind of cool with everything, because he's like, oh, you gotta go. I know it's bad, or like, oh, I've never been with anybody before. Oh, what's that? You want me to just jill you off for 45 minutes? No, we can just go to sleep. That's fine. I'm happy just to be here with you. It's like, all right, come on. You want to see the buns again? No problem. I'm thinking like, what's the very end of the story? And I think it'll be, because once Frank is dead. I mean, we didn't see his body, but he's dead. So, they get together in their sort of twilight years. Maybe he comes forward and then they just, watch Price is Right together, like in a nursing home.
That could be.
That's what I think.
I think it would be funny watching Jamie be in the modern world.
Is it Price or no? Is it Let's Make a Deal? That's one where you get the crappy prizes, where it's like, did you trade for what's behind the door? And it's like, oh, it's a mule. And Jamie would be like, what a fine prize. Looks strong. We have to get on the show. So anyway, it's Outlander. It's still running today. It's on Sunday nights, but don't watch it instead of listening to the Enterprising Individuals recap show. The only stars you need to see are the ones that we're trekking to.
There you go.
And discovering.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Jamaica, off the Florida Keys.
Join in if you know it. Bong. Okay, all right, stop. Let's talk comics. It's comic book time, comic book club time, I should say. This piece we picked as a dedication to Len Wein. He was the writer and editor of this book, along with Dave Cockrum as the artist. And we're talking about Giant Size X-Men, number 1 from 1975.
Why is it called Giant Size? Because at first I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was because the X-Men like doubled in size.
They got really big.
So they're
and it's also
giant.
and it's also like 66 pages. It's way more pages than a normal comic book.
True.
Yeah. So there you go. What's important about this? Oh, nothing. Just invented the modern X-Men as we know it. That's all. That's fine. It's important because it was the first new X-Men story in years. The X-Men kind of like fell off. I think we had talked about this on a previous show.
Yeah.
After 1970, there just wasn't any more new X-Men comics.
Which is just weird.
They still printed X-Men. They just printed reprints. So like issues like mid 60s to up to like the hundreds or so, they just printed old stories over again.
Okay.
Like just rehashes.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah, it is. And that was until about 1975. Then over the summer, Giant Size X-Men came out in 75. And then after that, X-Men returned to its regular numbering with like issue 94 or so.
Okay.
That's when like new X-Men issues started coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Well, I think people know who the X-Men are. What happens in Giant Size X-Men?
Well, Professor X collects a whole bunch of X-Men and says, we need you. So like Colossus, Storm, Wolverine, Banshee, Nightcrawler, and some other
Right. International mutants.
Yeah. And Sunspot, is that the name of the...
Yes.
Okay.
Shiro Yoshida.
Sunspot and the Native American guy.
James Proudstar.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's Proudstar.
Or sorry, John.
John Proudstar. And he's like, I could tell you why I gathered you here, but why would I do that when a Cyclops can do that for me?
Right, yeah.
So then Cyclops explains that him and the other X-Men went on a mission, and basically the other X-Men disappeared. And so now they're going to go on another mission to find them and save them.
Yeah, it's like the original-ish X-Men. I think at that time Beast had upgraded to the Defenders, or no, wait, this is in the 70s. Might have been the old Defenders. Anyway, he was doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And Havoc and Polaris were on the team at that time. And so
Marvel
all these
Girl.
people... Yeah, right. And all these people are gone. And Cyclops has come back to the mansion in the jet. And he's like, where's everybody? And Scott's like, I don't know. I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
Bad news.
Yeah.
So Xavier somehow in his little wheelchair goes all over the world and collects all these different mutants.
Yeah.
And makes a team, an uneasy team out of them.
Yeah.
Their interactions are defined by the conflict between them. Gene Roddenberry would have pulled his toupee off at that. Our heroes can't have contact or conflict with each other. So what else happens after that?
Well, Sunspot and Banshee really don't, or Nightcrawler, I should say, don't get along.
Yeah.
Which is too bad. Anyways, they go to this island where they're supposed to be able to find like this other mutant, and this is where all the other X-Men disappeared. And there's this temple that shows up shortly after they all crash, and they go to explore the temple.
Yeah.
And in the temple, they find the X-Men.
Right. They're like hooked up to tubes or something.
Yeah.
And they've gone here because, they've detected a mutant. That,
yes.
Cerebro has detected that there's a mutant somewhere on this island.
And then they realize that the mutant is the island.
Oh,
And they've been double crossed by this mutant.
yes,
Because it's super hungry.
yes.
And
It feeds off of mutant energy
yeah, and it lets Scott go.
because
to
he's
bring-
dumb.
Yeah,
Because he's dumb.
to bring back other X-Men.
Yes.
And he helped Professor X collect the other X-Men,
He
supposedly.
sent Scott on a beer run.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, now I'll never go hungry again.
Right. Yeah.
So then they fight the island.
Yeah, Krakoa is the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So isn't Krakoa a real island?
Krakatoa is a real island.
Krakatoa.
Yeah.
That's it.
Clearly meant to invoke that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And they beat it in a real weird comic booky way.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And they go back and have the, the old, well, I'm sure we'll have many, many adventures together kind of thing.
And I don't know how we're all going to fit on the jet, but
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. What do we do with 13 X-Men? There's a lot of things in like X-Men lore that kind of become, memes or repeated, like body and soul or you were dead, I got better, like that sort of thing. And I think, and that's mostly down to Claremont, just kind of reusing things that he likes. But some things are like that because a lot of times the X-Men have a couple different teams. This is really like the first instance of there being a second team of X-Men.
Okay.
And that's something that will continue all throughout it. So every once in a while, there'll be some crisis where the teams break up or they all get together and it's like, now we have 45 X-Men. What do we do? Well, clearly you split them into 3 different books that you're going to try to sell. That's what you do.
clearly.
Yeah. They weren't quite up to that yet with this. This would just go back to being X-Men for a while, but they would eventually spin off the New Mutants in 1981.
Okay.
Yeah. Demon Bear,
Yep.
all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. This became the new status quo for the X-Men, and those interpersonal conflicts and having to share the bathrooms in the X-Mansion and all contributed to the story. That's how the X-Men do. You hadn't read this before.
No, I hadn't.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I liked it.
Can you be more specific?
Sure. I thought that it was a good way of telling a story about X-Men coming together to save one another and to how we reform the X-Men. I thought it did a good job of doing that.
And you're really introducing an audience that you assume has sort of lapsed in their reading of the X-Men.
Right.
So you have to kind of give people a taste of, what they maybe remember or maybe don't. But at the same time, you have to introduce, a whole new, because these are all new characters. Like
I was going to ask.
These characters, we think of them as being the X-Men, but this is the very first appearance of Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Thunderbird. Like they are all created by Len Wein. Yeah.
Okay.
For this book.
Okay. And that's a pretty big deal because they go on to be huge X-Men.
Some of the most
players.
famous, if not the most famous and favorite X-Men.
Yeah. Just look at the cartoon show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the cartoon show in its style is very specifically based on the early 90s sort of reboot of the X-Men under Claremont and Lee. With Rogue's Yellow Jacket and Sugar and all that stuff. And
right.
But then it went back and took storylines from the comics. So they go to Krakoa, like Island, where Jean is like, well, I'm the Phoenix, Jean. And they go through all those things. But yeah. And I think that era, Jim Lee redesigned all the costumes and stuff, but that era really does summon this era, sort of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Because for the longest time, Wolverine's going to wear the blue and yellow.
Yep.
Colossus is going to have the stripper shirt that shows his obliques.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And those designs are going to be really iconic through Cockrum's run. Paul Smith comes on later and does more with that. And eventually we get to John Byrne, and I think things change a little. But yeah, so when they rebooted it, I think they really did. They actually start with a line that's like, what do we do with like 20 X-Men? And they create the blue and the yellow teams. And I think we try to recapture this sort of spirit of like this kind of crabby family that's sort of, fighting to protect people that hate them.
Right.
The X-Men. Krakoa, the island.
Yes.
Bad. Not good.
No.
But a mutant needs help. Deserve to get blasted into space?
That's a good question. Probably not, but
Necessary force?
maybe.
Maybe just like, Professor X, can you just talk to him? It's like, hey, can you move to the Bermuda Triangle or something? Just chill out. Go eat all that plastic in the vortex in the Pacific. Scratch our back, we'll scratch yours.
Stop eating mutants.
Yeah. Nope. 3, 2, 1, launch into space. He comes back.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is where I should mention that, and I don't like it, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but there is a retcon, a famous retcon of this story. It came out about maybe 10 years ago or so. And it's revealed in this story that's called Deadly Genesis that is written by Ed Brubaker. And it's revealed that there was a team of X-Men before this team of X-Men.
Okay.
That this is actually the second attempt to save the X-Men from the island or whatever.
Okay.
So Cyclops comes back and he's like, oh my God, they got Bobby and Lorna. They got everybody.
Right.
And Professor X is like, don't worry about it. And so he goes out and he gets everybody's favorite characters like Darwin and Vulcan and other people. Just a bunch of like mutants made up out of whole cloth. And they go to try to rescue the trapped X-Men, and they're all killed. Like they're just massacred. And like Scott...
Oh, that's terrible.
Scott is so distraught over being like a bad leader that Professor X just wipes his mind. And then he's like, hey, Scott, remember we were going to go get some mutants? And so they go get Nightcrawler and Cyclops or Colossus and everybody. And then
oh, my gosh.
And we never talked about that.
Ever again.
Nope. Until Deadly Genesis. And the truth comes out.
That reminds me of the latest Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets their memories back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's retconning, baby.
That's terrible.
Not a retcon that I'm real pumped about, but whatever. Doesn't matter. And so that's what kind of leads to Scott kicking Professor X out of the school.
Okay.
And then becoming the headmaster. And now we're into the post House of M, Astonishing X-Men kind of time.
Sure.
Which will then lead up to Scott and Logan having a problem, and they split, and we get to AVX, and then Phoenix Scott kills Professor X, and that gets us closer to where we are today.
Okay.
That's sort of Ed Brubaker, you beautiful bastard, you started all this. Started all this trouble. Set us on the downhill path. But it's interesting, the cover of X-Men Genesis, Deadly Genesis, is by Mark Silvestri, and it's made specifically to look like the old poster. So it's like...
Oh, like giant size X-Men?
Yeah, they're busting through. They're busting through a thing, but they're all skulls.
Oh, my gosh.
Because it's a Deadly Genesis. We're all dead.
Silly.
Dumb. Anything specific that you really, really liked about this?
I liked Marvel Girl. I haven't seen a whole lot of Marvel Girl before, so
yeah,
in my reading, so I liked reading with her about her.
Yeah.
I liked like Storm when he first meets her. She's like a goddess.
Right.
That was pretty cool. And Nightcrawler was being terrorized by townspeople, which was pretty terrible.
Yeah. Well, he looks different.
I know.
Than you'd expect. I like the fact, though, and it says a lot about Nightcrawler's character, is that they corner him and he's like, if I'm going down, you're coming with me. He just jumps in and starts punching everybody in the crowd.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of his style.
Yeah.
Until he becomes a priest. It's dumb. Don't worry about it. Don't ask. I like the backups in there too. There's these little backups, again, probably to reacquaint readers with the characters and their powers. But they have a little, I'm Cyclops. Here's what I can do.
Yeah.
And, oh look, I'm Marvel Girl. Check this out.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked that.
Yeah. And they actually made a point to like they're edited by Lee and probably contributed to by Lee, but they made a point of having the sort of bio of Marvel Girl be written by a woman, Linda Fite, who was a writer and like an editor at the time.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
So.
And she's not, well, there's one part where she's like, I got to make sure I look good for the boys. It's like, all right.
It's like, okay.
All right.
Even a lady at the time.
Yeah.
Wrote it like that.
I like the Hostess fruit pie ads.
Yeah.
Remember those?
No, I don't.
How do you not remember Hostess fruit pie ads?
I don't know.
There's like, it's like Spider-Man swinging by and he's like, oh, these crooks, they're stealing a gem from the space telescope. They're like, we got to get this gem out of here. And then we're going to get something to eat. He's like, they're hungry, huh? So Spider-Man swings down. He's like, hey, crooks, get a load of these tasty, fresh Hostess pies. They're like, these are so good. I quit my criminal ways. Okay, go to jail. You won't be getting any pies in jail. I like those. Those are pretty good.
Oh.
I also like how we read this in the old sort of format, and they don't do this anymore, but they have the one-line pitches for other comics that you can get.
Yeah.
So remember, at the time, late 60s, even mid 60s and early 70s, Marvel Comics is like self-promoting. It's its own thing. There's merchandise, but you're not necessarily going to see like a lot of TV commercials. There certainly aren't any Hollywood movies to get you to read more of their stuff. So
Sure.
Just down in like the lower left-hand corner when you're reading, you'll see like, ooh, trapped in a world he never made and fighting Kulan Gath. Check out Conan in Amazing Conan number 25. Or something like Spider-Man can't find his subway tokens. How is he going to get to Brooklyn? Amazing Spider-Man 68. So I always miss those sort of things. It's like a ticker.
Well, that's kind of fun.
Witness the frightful fate of Glenn Talbot in Hulk 186.
I guess I didn't notice that when I was reading it.
Oh, okay. You got to know what to look for.
I guess so.
Well, you've read New X-Men, you've read Old X-Men. How does this compare? What do you think about this?
I think it compares well. It's well written. It's you're introducing all of these characters that become beloved and everything. I think this is essential X-Men reading.
Yeah, I like it too. I think that it's firmly in like the Bronze Age. There's definitely like not very complicated or deep character development, which is fine. But Wein does a good job of distinguishing the personalities from each other. So you get that sort of thing where they're all there and everybody's got a comment, and so Banshee's like, oh, Faith and Bergora, a living island, and they all kind of get their own. They get to forward the story, but then they get to add their little character shades in there as well.
Right.
And it isn't until, the Days of Future Past or something, or not Days of Future Past, the Hellfire Club thing, where like Wolverine goes off on his own, and then he's got to fight his way through the Hellfire Club to rescue the X-Men while they're all tied up.
Right.
That's when Wolverine really started to take off. At this point, he's just like, who's this jerk who's got like a claws and I guess he's Canadian? Well, that's dorky. But that's where he really kind of shined. But up till then, it's just, there's 5 heads on the page and they're all going like, oh my God, look at that. And they're all, I know, exposit. I know, exposit. So that's the kind of storytelling we're dealing with. But it's dealt with in a really good way. Like the script is really good. And there's a lot of fights over like who's your X-Men guy. I really do like Paul Smith a lot, but I gotta say that when I think about the X-Men of this era, like the classic Stripper Colossus, Storm, Pre-Mohawk, Nightcrawler,
right?
I see Cockrum. I see Cockrum's art in my head.
Sure.
Big Boots Cyclops.
Yeah.
And that whole thing.
Exactly.
So you get a ton of that here.
You definitely do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's a recommend from me.
I recommend it
And
as
a
well.
recommend from you, and that's good. It's Giant Size X-Men. Who hasn't read this? I mean, come on. Right? You've probably read this, and so I recommend that you check it out. And maybe, I guess I would say check out Deadly Genesis. If you want to. It is a story that I don't think is fantastic necessarily, but it definitely does add more background to this.
Sure.
And in introducing the character of Vulcan, that's a character that will go on to reach into a couple different, books and storylines. Becomes very, I guess I won't spoil things, but he becomes very integral to kind of what's going on for the X-Men at that time. So,
okay.
yeah, I'd say check that out as well. So that's it. Giant Size X-Men #1, number only. There's actually, I think, a 2 later on, but don't worry about it. Giant Size X-Men #1. So, what do you want to read next? We've done a Marvel.
Yeah.
We've done a DC. Maybe some DC something?
Maybe some DC.
Yeah.
Would be good.
I think we should do some DC.
Okay.
It's a little early. We might want to save this for when Justice League's going to come out in November. Well, what the hell? Let's do it now. We should read the first 5 issues of Grant Morrison's run on JLA.
Okay.
That
sounds good.
Yeah. That would technically be JLA Volume 3, I believe. The way that I know that is it's just the one. It's JLA. It came out in 97. And it's got the whole crew on the front. It's drawn by Howard Porter, and it's early Grant Morrison going like, how can I screw all this up for everybody and make them mad? And it's kind of his take on the JLA. And he does it. I mean, JLA stories are always, they're very superpowered. They're not fighting person snatchers or whatever. They're dealing with really tough threats. But he kind of takes it in a, this is a post-Watchmen sort of world.
Sure.
A post-Miracle Man world. And he takes it in a... how would these super beings really, really super this thing?
Right.
And kind of change the world, and what kind of threats would undefeatable people have to face in order to be worried? And so that's what he does. And he messes up pretty bad. A lot of changes get made. But this is like your classic 90s long-haired Aquaman with the hook hand. We're talking Kyle Rayner is the GL, and of course Wally West is the Flash. And it's still long-haired Superman, mullet Superman, still in place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a little trip back in time, next time on Comic Book Club for JLA. Well, that's it. That'll do for this show, I think. We X'd all the men, and we landed all the outs. And what else did we do? We made sure that writers didn't get credit for what they're supposed to do. We read all the Sparrowed all the Reds.
Yeah.
We're totally done with that. So if you want to keep Sparrowing Reds with us, you can find us on our social media at Facebook and Twitter. Go check us out there. We're also on Tumblr and Instagram. Don't mention that very often, but we are there as well. You can follow us there. And if you want to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, you can go there. A rating would be nice. A high rating would be nice.
Yeah.
You can't really undersell how helpful that is to us. When we get a high rating, we move up in the ranks, and that way iTunes, now Apple Podcasts, I got to get used to saying that, knows that we're doing a good job. We move up, we get on certain lists, like being new and notable, and people get to discover us, and that way we can have more people to bring things to. Everybody gets exactly what they want. So I guess in this case, I'd ask for 5 new X-Men.
There you go.
To replace the 5 X-Men that were brutally murdered by the island of Krakoa. Bad news. Which seems sentient in this story, and it's later retconned that was not. That was part of some ploy by Count Nefaria or something like that.
Oh, great.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Proudstar Thunderbird dies on their very next mission.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, hey, we got a native guy. Great. Oh, dead.
Great.
And it's not a good reason. He's like, Count Nefaria is getting away on a rocket or something, and he jumps on the rocket and he's like, I'm going to get this guy. And Professor X's like, it's fine. Just let him go. Let him go. He's like, no, I'll show you. I'm an Apache warrior. Wham, 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 wham. And he just blows up the rocket basically with it while he's on it. It's like,
great.
so proud to live, so dumb, he's dead.
That's really upsetting.
Yeah.
That's
and for a long time.
Way too soon.
Yep. And for a long time, I think he's alive again now, but he was dead for a long time. In fact, they even created his brother, James, I think, James Proudstar, who became Warpath, and just left him dead. He was the one that had to stay dead for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the Jason Todd of the X-Men.
Okay.
That guy's got to stay dead. So in order to get away from all that kind of possibly insensitive storytelling, give us 5 stars. That's probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate it. Like I said, we are going to be doing Comic Book Club again next week, and we're doing Grant Morrison's JLA, issues 1 through 5. That's volume 3, technically. So read up on that. I'm sure you've probably got it already, so you can follow along with us. And I think we're good. I think we're going to sign off. I am your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.
Too bad.